Hello, crew. I'm Montana, Director of Marketing here at Maverick Wine Company, Colorado. And all August long, we have been celebrating women in wine. And today we have a very special guest for you guys. We are introducing you to the amazing Laura Catena of La Posta and Luca Wines.
Hola, Montana.
Hola.
¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien, ¿y usted?
Yo estoy muy bien. Ah, no sabía que hablabas español.
Un poquito.
Ah, bueno.
Don't text me.
Ok, para los amigos en Argentina o en Brasil, vamos a estar hablando en inglés porque Montana es de Colorado. Y vamos a estar hablando sobre Luca en la Posta. We're going to be talking about Luca en la Posta from Mendoza, but I think we're going to do English, Montana.
Yes, I prefer that. Eu falo um pouquinho português,
Ah,
mas eu não quero
fala
falar português hoje.
Ah,
Para a galera lá no
pero
Brasil.
fala muito bem.
Obrigado, eu fiz intercâmbio. Faz
Oh,
tempo.
but you speak Portuguese much better than I do. Muito bem.
Obrigada. Well, I do want to talk about Luca and La Posta with you, of course. First of all, I want to thank you on behalf of everyone here in Colorado. We are so honored to have you here. We are celebrating women in our wine industry, from producers like yourself to the people in the distribution circle, our salespeople, people in our offices, even our shippers, our importers, and also our wonderful shopkeepers and our female wine lovers around the state of Colorado. Tomorrow is Women's Equality Day. I wish it were called Women's Opportunity Day.
Yes. You know, Montana, that my theory is that actually for women's equality to happen, there has to be men's equality, because men have to be allowed to do things that, you know, sometimes only women get to stay home with their kids sometimes. And I think that true equality, where men get to do things that maybe people think only women should do, and vice versa, that's when this will be a better place. But I'm also very happy to cheer for women's equality, because it's a recent phenomenon, women's equality, and we are still working at it.
And it's such a privilege to be a woman, isn't it? We have so many wonderful things that are unique to us. And one of those things I fully believe is the gift and ability to multitask. And very few people multitask as well as you do. You are a physician, you are a winemaker, fourth generation. And your story is so amazing. So really, for anyone who doesn't know, although most of the people watching know who you are, if you wouldn't mind just giving us a little bit of information around how you started in the wine business and your family story, just a little bit.
Well, I was born in Argentina, Mendoza, and grew up going to the winery with my grandfather and my father. But mostly I would go to draw on the desk or play with the dogs, because, you know, women didn't work at wineries back then. But somehow I found my way in. But then when my father came to the U.S. To be a visiting scholar in economics at UC Berkeley, I ended up going to high school here and then to university. And my passion was to do something that would help people. And, honestly, I didn't know much about wine, other than that, it was part of my life. You know, when you grow up in something, you sometimes know less about the business of it, or the like, what does it look like to be a winemaker than people who maybe didn't grow up in the wine world. So I thought, okay, I'll be a doctor. Then I can be sure to be helping people. And I've been practicing medicine and making wine now for, about 25 years. And what I came to realize was that actually, wine and viticulture is this 6,000-year-old art. And that, all this culture revolves around wine all over the world, in Europe, in the US, in Australia, in Argentina, since the 16th century. And that actually this revolution that happened in Argentina, Mendoza, with Malbec and with, fine wine being exported from Argentina, actually changed so many people's lives. It brought, jobs, better schools, gardens, coffee shops, great wine, and it's transformed my region. So today, when I think of, how can I make an impact? Yes, doctors heal, but I actually think that making wine in Argentina and the beauty of the fact that these wines are drank all over the world in Colorado, is significant. It's a way of contributing to the world, and wine is good for your health.
Of course.
In moderation. And it makes you happier. People who drink wine smile more. Did you know that, Montana?
I do all the time, so I totally And
Very
it is
good.
so special to connect people in this way, and for us to come together from opposite parts of the world, and be here at the same time and have a conversation together. And so you went to practice medicine, but of course your family's legacy is deeply rooted in wine. And so what drew you back?
Well, my father had this dream of making Argentine wine that could stand with the best of the world. We had visited France together. I had gone initially as his translator, and his sort of partner in crime, because, if your father invites you when you're 20 years old to France as their translator, of course you say yes, right?
Yeah, of course.
And then I fell in love with wine as a consumer. And I saw that my father had this vision, but then, one time I went to the New York Wine Experience, this event that the Wine Spectator has, and 2 other events. And I realized that nobody knew anything about Argentine wine. We were the 4th largest producer of wine in the world. Now we're the 5th. And people didn't know Argentine wine. They had no idea the beauty of it, the special place and the high altitudes with the sunlight, the Malbec variety, this ancient variety that has almost disappeared in Europe, but is so famous in Argentina. Anyhow, wait, you know what, Montana? I have to make sure that my Bluetooth doesn't get connected to the car, because I believe somebody give me 1 second. Chicos, ¿van a salir con el auto? Okay, no, I believe they're going with the dog somewhere. I'm really sorry, Montana. I should have predicted this. Yes. So anyhow,
introducing, yeah.
Yeah, so I realized that my father needed all this help. And first it was really about helping my father. And, I started traveling and working at the Catena Institute, because that's where we were doing all this groundbreaking studies of the high altitude of the soils. And I had been told by some French producers, you don't have deep roots, you don't have terroir in Argentina. And, you have this famous producer say something, you sort of listen to that. And then I went and I said, I need to see, do we have this terroir thing? Is terroir only a French thing? And I started studying and finding that we had all these different, stones with calcium carbonate, what's called limestone in the rest of the world. Then we had clays, and then we had, these sandy, loamy soils, and they were of different texture in different places, and the grapes tasted different in every place. And I said, wait a second, that's what terroir means. It means that the grapes from a particular place taste different than the grapes from another place. And then we had this altitude factor where you can go from the climate in the Languedoc in the south of France to the climate in Champagne in 45 minutes. In France, that would take 7 hours. And we had those differences in a very short distance. So we had not just terroir, but, super duper terroir, like the greatest amount of terroir that could exist in the world. So I became fascinated with this, helping my dad. And then I realized that, my country needed me. It was almost like a patriotic thing, and I'd rather be enlisted to sell wine than to go to war,
Well, and a lot of consumers, I think, here in the United States still think of Malbec as being one way. And it's producers like yourself that show the variety and the different types of styles that can be produced by the same grape variety, which expresses the various terroir throughout Argentina.
Yeah, like this one right here.
Exactly. It's the perfect point, is you go into these beautiful wines from the Posta line, Paolucci.
Yes. Yeah.
So your family has Italian heritage.
Yes.
So
yes.
tell us about La Posta.
Yeah. So my great grandfather Nicola Catena came from Le Marche, and we're Argentines, but we're also Argentine Italians, because greater than 60% of Argentines have Italian heritage. So actually, there's a funny joke that somebody tells that, a boy from Argentina went to Italy, and he called his mother and said, Mama, this is really funny. Everybody in Italy has Argentinian names. And it's like, Catena means chain in Italian. And, Paolucci is like little Paolo. And so Argentines have this strong Italian heritage, because 6 million Europeans, mostly Italian, came to Argentina between the 19th and 20th century. And there have been only 500,000 people in Argentina at the beginning of the 19th century. So all this immigration that came to do different things. My great grandfather came for the specific purpose of making wine. He wanted to have his own vineyard in Argentina. He'd heard so much about Mendoza, and that's why he came. And the same story for the other producers. So we have Paolucci, who he came when he was about I think he was about maybe 10 or 11 years old. He came to Argentina. He still speaks Spanish with an Italian accent.
Good for him.
And then, we have Fazio, we have the Pizzella family, who, they're the grandkids of Italians, more like me. And Fazio also, and actually it's kind of coincidental that they all have Italian names. Like, we were looking for great producers who were making, beautiful, expressive wines that were really specific to the terroir. What you said before, Montana, is that, Malbec is yet so unexplored in the world because most people don't really know the differences between one terroir and another. And in Mendoza alone, which Mendoza is where 70% of Argentine wine is produced, and Mendoza is the size of like half of California, so it's a pretty big place. So it's a state for us. We call it province, but it's like a state. And within Mendoza, we have 27 different appellations, which are called indicaciones geográficas. And within those, we have different vineyards with different soils and different altitudes. So, you could spend your whole life tasting Malbec from Argentina and never run out.
It's so much true, similar as well to the genesis of the winemaking industry in California. So many of the roots are vested in the Italian heritage, and then they start to expand and understand the difference between what's going to flourish and the expression of the terroir and the different grapes planted in different locations. It's a story.
Then we have this variety, Malbec. Here's the Luca Old Vines. And Malbec, as much as we'd like it to be Argentinian or Italian, is French. And, as much as, I like to butt heads with French people, I have such great admiration for, just their legacy to the world of wine. And actually, Mr. Paolucci, who is just the most amazing man, he once told me, he said, Doctora Laura, because I was asking him, well, Angel, why didn't you plant some Italian varieties here in your vineyard? You have this beautiful sunlight and this great soil. And he says, I tried, Doctora Laura. I tried to plant the Montepulciano because it's from Abruzzo.
Of course he tried.
And he's like, I tried. And then he made bad wine because, Doctora Laura, the only wine that is great in my vineyard is Malbec. And the truth is that Malbec is just a variety that does well in Argentina. It shows terroir, kind of like Pinot Noir does in Burgundy. Mm-hmm. It shows the place, and it's just glorious and different in every place. There isn't a variety like Malbec that you can plant it almost anywhere where it will make an okay wine. Like if you plant it in a hot area, it might not be, like one of the La Posta wines or like the Luca Old Vines wines, but it'll still be delicious. It's something about the soils and the climate combination. And it's really like the story of a successful immigrant. You know how some people do better in their new country? And I think that's the Malbec story. But if it weren't for 2,000 years of history in France, we wouldn't have our dear Malbec grape. And I will be forever grateful to the Gauls, who developed the variety, back in the Roman days.
It's so special and amazing. And then we also, from the Luca line, which is named after your son, Luca.
Yeah. So just special for today, I have an old picture. This is my husband with Luca on his lap, and this is Dante. And you see how Dante looks a little bit unhappy in that picture. So when Luca and Dante were little, they used to fight a lot. So that's why I named the wine Beso de Dante, which is Malbec and Cabernet, is when the Cabernet kisses the Malbec. And I think that I forced them so much to love each other and hug each other that today they are great friends. But it wasn't, I used to always laugh when people would ask me about the name Beso de Dante. I would be like, yeah, it's very unlikely for Dante to give a kiss to Luca these days. But now that they're 18 and 22, they're really great friends.
Oh, that's amazing. And you also make a Syrah in the Luca line.
That's right. The double select. So what's beautiful about the Luca Syrah is that it's this old selection that comes from the Rhone. So it's hundreds of different cuttings that were brought by the the father of Jerry Laborde, of the Laborde Vineyard, who was an investigator. He did research at the Institute in Argentina for vine research. He brought these vines and then he replanted them. So I'm convinced that actually this Syrah might be the oldest Massal selection existing in South America, in this vineyard. And we've actually taken cuttings from here and planted them in other places because the vineyard is getting pretty old right now. It's like 50 something years old. Yeah. But it's so rich and dense. And, I think if we didn't have such great Malbec, there would be more Syrah planted in Argentina. But, it's like the fourth most widely planted red. So after Cabernet and Bonarda, there's quite a bit of Syrah planted, but you don't see it that often.
Sure. Okay. So I have to ask, because you have such an energy and you have done so many things so well. I think how you do anything is how you do everything. There's always a common thread throughout things. So you are a mother, a physician, a winemaker, and of course we're celebrating women in wine and the ability to multitask. But how do you stay motivated to continue with all this energy towards all of the things that you do?
Well, I have to say that I am not a particularly good multitasker. So I think that in general, one should do one thing at a time, because to do something well, you generally have to be doing one thing. So I sort of divide my activities into A+ activities and C- activities. And this was a great breakthrough when I had my second son, and I was breastfeeding him, and actually my milk was running out. Like, maybe one shouldn't talk about these things publicly, but probably the women can understand. And I became very concerned, like, could I be so stressed out that I can't take care of my little son? And then I said, I'm trying to do everything perfectly. And that's not good for me. And it's not even necessary, because, do I need to make amazing food every night? No, we can get takeout. Like, there's some amazing restaurants who will always cook better than I can. Or, does my house need to be neat? Or I occasionally have forgotten to pick up my kids from a soccer match. Well, they learn a lesson, like they ask another parent, like, fortunately, nothing bad's ever happened. But, I think that the A+ activities are, number one, I have to be a great doctor. For example, if I'm going to work in the hospital, I always go to bed early. I never go right after I'm on a trip, because I need to be in top shape. Do your kids need to feel loved? Yes. Do you need to do everything for your kids? No, that's actually bad for them. Every time your husband complains, do you need to listen to them? Well, not necessarily. Ruth Bader Ginsburg said that everybody should try to be a little deaf when it comes to marriage. Like, when somebody's mad, just let it go. And I think it applies also to men from women. Like, if your partner, they're a woman and they're complaining, just kind of, go along, and usually it'll pass. And all these things like that I was trying to do perfectly, I realized that was unnecessary, and that I had to focus on doing a few things really, really well, like making great wine. If I can't make a great wine on a certain year, or if I can make less, well, I've produced half as much, So there's these things where you have to really be at a top level, but most of the things you have to make the active decision of not being perfect. And I think this applies to both men and women.
Absolutely. And I'm a little surprised by your answer, but I have to say how much I respect and appreciate it, because it's honest and true. And I know that very many people watching can relate and can understand. That's how we all feel. And you've accomplished so much, but it's not by jamming everything in. You have a finite amount of energy, and what you put it towards can become something really special when you let yourself breathe in between.
Yeah, I'm just laughing because one of my friends is on this call, and she says, definitely don't listen to your husband.
Never. Especially when they're giving you a hard time. You're like, I got a lot going on.
I would say that the men on this call would say the exact same thing about the wife. And I think this is where we should not be sexist. Men should be allowed to not listen to their wives, and wives should be allowed to not listen to their husband.
Men
no
have
sexism
a really
here.
Good ability to tune that stuff out. Very selective. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna hone my skills in that regard.
Yeah.
And so you're splitting time in Argentina and San Francisco. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, yes. Well, I'm currently in San Francisco because if I go to Argentina, I'll be quarantined for 2 weeks. And they don't want anybody coming from the US right
Right.
now, because, there's quite a few of these COVID cases. But honestly, I feel like I live in Argentina because I talk so many hours a day. I actually am talking more to the team in Argentina, in the vineyards, in the winery, at the office than I ever have because a lot of people are spending more time at home.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like to look at the opportunities and the silver linings of this
yeah,
whole
yeah,
isolation period that we're all experiencing. We're all getting a little more used to this type of an interaction. I don't know if
yeah,
1 year ago we would do this. So
yeah. That's
that's the
true.
thing I'm
That's true.
grateful for in all of the madness.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
So, do you have is there anything in your mind? I think other people have ideas about you and your family, but is there anything that you would hope would be the thought people would have about you as a legacy, as a woman, not just as a winemaker? I know it's a big
I don't
question.
know, but I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that. In that sense, I do a lot of planning because I think planning is necessary to do complex things. If you want to achieve a difficult goal, it's generally not going to be quick. So you do have to do a lot of planning. However, I really do live in the now. I like to really enjoy every day, even a bad day, process that day, take the time to process bad moments or, you know, honor them. But live in the day, the good and the bad. In the vineyard and the winery, I'm always thinking about the future because I'm on the 100-year plan, which is a very convenient plan because I won't be alive to see whether I achieved it or not.
I
So
like
I,
that.
I
I'm
really
thinking
like
to
that.
my life to that.
I like the 100-year plan. But I don't think much in terms of my legacy. I'm a doer. I'm doing things now. Maybe I'm changing what I'm doing, later because we came up with a new idea. But, it's along the 100-year route. I'm a moment in those 100 years, and I want to do my best during that moment. But there's no legacy. It's just a continuum.
So what's next? Immediate future.
Yes.
Anything on
Well,
deck?
yes, I am actually, after enjoying a little bit of time staying more at home, I have this new dog that our family got, in July of 2019. So it's been amazing to be able to be well, I call myself the grandmother, the nonna of this dog. Yeah, her name is Nala. So that's been an amazing experience to nurture this little being that I wouldn't have had time to really nurture and train a dog. It's a lot of work.
What kind of
But
dog is it?
she's a golden doodle. You can find a photo in
I
my
will.
Instagram. But anyhow, so that's been an exciting thing. Also, being home a little more with my children. My husband has actually stopped complaining that I travel too much. I think he's actually waiting for me to start traveling again. I never thought that day would come, so I'm actually happy to have had this. But now I'm ready to start traveling again. So I'm just wondering which Chinese or Asian country I could go to because they seem to, but be more open. But except that they ask for quarantine also, for any foreigners. So honestly, I'm ready to go. I need to be back in Argentina. I need to touch people. I want to be in a room with them. So that's the near future. In terms of for the country Argentina, I do think that the two big challenges are first, collectability. Our wines age incredibly well, both the Malbec, the Cabernet, even the Chardonnays. We have these beautiful blends, these single vineyard, single parcel Malbecs. Until there is an Argentine wine in every collector's cellar, I am not going to stop. So this is a very important goal. And I think a goal that goes sort of hand in hand is this concept of the multiple different terroirs of Mendoza and of other regions in Argentina. I don't think it's about having people memorize the 27 different appellations of Mendoza because it's not about the name, but just people showing an interest in the different flavors and the different aromas, learning about this diversity. I think that's important. And the great thing is that I am not the only person in Argentina working on this. There's many other producers working on this, making, single parcel, single vineyard wine, single region wine, and I know we will get there with both my
continue
goals.
to share the message and your beautiful wines here in
Yeah.
Colorado and around the United States with our partners at Vine Connections. We're so grateful.
Vine Connections, yes.
We're so grateful to work with you, your beautiful wines, the whole team there, and for your time today in honor of yourself, Women in Wine, Argentina, and all the people watching. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Pantera, and a big hello to Melanie, my dear friend. I can't wait to see you, amiga. I can't wait to see Melanie and everybody else on this call. There's a lot of friends that have come in. So muchas gracias. And thank you so much, Montana. Have a great rest of your week and hope to see you soon.
Hope to see you soon, Laura.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Adios. Adios.